Welcome everybody. Getting a little late start today. Welcome everybody. Let's see, this afternoon we're going to spend a little time working on my result library, which has a few open issues, and we're looking to add support for Fluent validation to it. I don't think I even have the code for this, so I'm going to start by cloning it. Oh wait, I do. Alright, cool. Let me just open it then. And, let's see, I've got chatty. Let's see where the chat window lines up so I can get this out of its way. That looks about right. Alright. Probably don't need quite that big a font. That'll work. Shady Niggy, how's it going? Alright, if we bring this back up and we'll just throw it over here on the side. Let's look at our issue list. So we just accepted some pull requests, and the next thing we were looking at is trying to use Fluent validation with the domain model. And I don't see anyone working on that. Well, there's this one, result when using. So Simon was working on this. Is he here today? I don't see him. Let's follow up on this issue real quick. Alright, so this big comment that Simon left back in May is kind of the impetus for this stuff we're going to work on today. And the issue is that when you're using a validation result from Fluent Validation, and you're trying to integrate that with an Ardalis.Result, that there's some differences and we need to sort that out. And so his analysis here was that there's a disconnect, because I'm trying to use these results as a simple way to keep UI concerns, like HTTP service type concerns, out of my domain model and out of my application services and things like that. But Fluent Validation has more richness than that. And so the results that it returns have more detail. I mean, it's not just a matter that these are validation errors, they might be validation errors of varying levels of severity, for instance. And since what I'm doing right now is just taking whatever comes back and throwing it on the model state.addModelError, that doesn't necessarily match up with how Fluent Validation works. What's more, Fluent Validation also supports field level validation as well as class level or form level. Here, which we were talking about. So, a to-do item might have a field level rule saying a description is required, but it also might say start date has to come before end date, so it uses two fields. And there could even be, entries that depend on other entries. Or you could imagine aggregate level rules like you can't have a duplicate, or the total number of these things can't exceed some value that the aggregate sets. General undo. How's the heat in your area? I wanted to sit in my bath the whole day, but no. It's not super hot here. Let me see what the weather says. I think it was supposed to be like 88 and cloudy. Right now it's like 79 degrees nearby, so it's warm, but it's 73 degrees in here, according to my little temperature thingy, thermometer. So yeah, it's not too hot. Speaking of that, we've got a weather forecast API right here, baby. inside my sample. So we could use, we could talk about the weather and talk about our code. But not really, because it's just giving us random data. Where's our actual service at? Core service. There it is, right there. There's our random weather. John Calloway, how's it going? Alright, so the first thing that I want to do is just play around with Fluent Validation in this application, right? Because I don't have any context for this right now. I'm not using Fluent Validation and Result in any real application at the moment, although I'm about to consider it. So my hope on the stream today is to just kind of do a spike and play around with Fluent Validation with some made up, oh yeah? The specification package? Awesome. Glad you like it. So anyway, today I just want to play around with Fluent Validation with Result in here and just create some additional samples. I could create a whole separate sample project, but for now I think we'll just add it to this one and see how that goes. So let's see, we have a model, the weather forecast. Fluent Validation has to have a sample of its own that I could probably just borrow, right? Let's go look for that. So over here, let's go look for Fluent Validation and see if we can steal some model that they already have. They'll be familiar to users of Fluent Validation instead of me having to create it myself. Coming up with demos is always the hardest thing. So the custom validator on of customer. Okay, so we could create a customer and pull that in. Maybe you have samples somewhere. Configuring. With example, that's not theirs. Excuse me. Well, this is their actual GitHub repo. I wonder if they have a sample that we can borrow in here. Docs, source, ASP.NET Core, tests. Tests are probably good. These are all just tests. Oh wait, here's a person. Licensed. Alright, that looks like what they use to test things. And they have a person validator. I don't see what they do. I need help with my C#, but I cannot afford your remote fee. Deflux K, well, as always, just ask for people on Twitter. There's plenty of people that need work right now. I would just say, hey, I can afford this, or I need help with something. There's Stack Overflow jobs, there's Fiverr, there's lots of options. Start up your stream on Twitch and then see who shows up and see if they're helpful. I don't know. There's options. I think Twitter is probably not a totally bad one. If you put some hashtags on there, like what is it, your C#, .NET, .NET Core, you know, make sure the people that have those things, they'll probably be able to find you. In fact, you might end up with more people than you know what to do with. There are a lot of different things in here. But let's just steal some of the stuff off of person and see if we can't write some validators for this. Person has children. And a collection of nicknames. I guess I have to understand this thing in order to use it, though. Alright, well let's start by adding Fluent Validation to this. Well, let's start by creating a branch. So create a new branch, and we'll call it Ardalis Fluent Val Sample. Alright. Now let's add it to our sample web project, or should we add it to our core? We should add it to core. That's where our model is going to be. So manage nuget packages there. Let's look for Fluent Validation. And we'll take that. Hashtag save me. I don't know what that means, DefluxK. You hoping someone's going to save you with what you post? Oh, try Reddit Stack Overflow. Yeah, that's not a bad idea either. General undo. And that'll be a lot cheaper too. Right. I wish when you clicked on updates, if you had a search, that would clear, because this always gets me every time. I'm like, you tell me there's one here, but there's none found. Visual Studio needs to do that sometime. Alright, let me as well update this while we're here. Okay, so now our current model only has weather forecast. Let's add a person. And then we can go over to Fluent Validation. And we'll say a person has these things, I guess. I might get rid of nicknames, but that's not a bad initial set. What are you doing? Here we go. There we go. Alright, now I'm guessing that you have some validators for these things somewhere. Collection validator with parent. Given a person that has these children, we need a test validator with a rule for surname and a rule for each order. Right, okay. Oh, he doesn't have the test validators set up somewhere. He's just creating them on the fly as he goes here. Alright. That's why I'm not seeing them in the source code. That makes sense for just doing these tests. Alright, well let's add some validators. And I think that I want to have actual validators. So let's see, I guess I'll put them in their own folder. So add a new folder, validators, and we'll add a new class, person validator, I guess. Maybe VF has a tutorial. What's VF? VF. Fluent Validation, Validation Fluent. It's a French version. Yeah, that makes more sense. Thank you. Let's see. Yeah, we can go out to here. Customer validator, abstract validator of something. Let's copy that. Paste here. Colon. Person. Fluent validation. Rule for this, rule for that. Don't need those. Don't need that. We should be close. Really wish constructor was a keyword. Done. Alright, now we can write a test for person validator. So we'll come down here. I don't really have tests for the sample. Should I though? Maybe I should. In the sample I have sample web, I have functional tests. Should I add unit tests? Sure, why not? I guess. Add a new project. XUnit. Ardalis.Sample. Shoot. It wasn't very consistent before. I have Ardalis.Result.SampleWeb and Ardalis.Sample.Core. That's messing me up. Let's do result.sample.unit tests. And put that in the sample folder. I need to fix the other thing at some point. Alright, for now, this thing just needs to depend on core as a project. This one. And first test is just going to say that person, that's what I want. Where is it? Here, model person, person validator. Let's go back to how you call Fluent validation. Creating this, chaining this. I want to just manually run the validator. Creating your first validator. Okay. And then we just want to validate it. What's that? So it's validator validate. Alright, so I need a person validator validate. And probably that could go in a folder. So let's add another folder. New folder, Validator tests. We'll take the unit test and throw it in there. Okay. Person validator validate. Yup. Test returns true. I don't think it returns true, but given valid person. What's it supposed to return? A validation result. So let's grab that, throw it in here. This should be person validator. This should be .validator tests. I'm going to make that a var in a second anyway, because I don't need it twice. And we need a person. Var person equals new person. Okay. I expect this to fail immediately. That's not what I want. There shouldn't be a data annotation. That should be a Fluent validation. Fluent validation results, validation result. Alright. Assert what? Result dot is valid. There we go. I should probably get Fluent assertions while I'm here, be it all Fluent, or shouldly. Assert dot that dot result is valid dot is dot true. Would that be better? I guess we'll just leave it like this. Let's run this thing. I said run the test. Show me the thing right here. What are you doing, CodeLens? It ran over here. CodeLens is supposed to show me this. Expected true was false. Okay, that's not really surprising. So we need to give person the not empty surname and the not empty forename. And we'll create some tests that fail along the way as well. So here, I may want to get auto fixture in on this, but let's keep it here for now. Yeah, there we go. And there's our test working now. It seems like you have to run it in the Test Explorer the first time and then it starts to work. Alright, so now we're valid. Hey Simon, we're actually working on the issue that we were talking about. Alright, so we've got a validator, and what else can we get off this thing? Let's get one that fails. So we'll copy this, and we'll say returns false, given person with no surname. Get rid of that. Assert dot false. And what else can we assert? Assert dot equal result dot errors dot first dot, so going to be a message, error message. And if we look at the person validator, no worries, Simon. Please specify a first name. Okay. Except I said surname, didn't I? Yeah, I said surname, so I don't know what the message is. So let's just assert that the count, that it has any. Assert dot true result dot messages or errors dot any. And is there a better assertion for that? I don't know. But let's run the tests. Hector, at Dev Intersection 2020 online, I have some workshops. They were going to be September 1st and 2nd, but they just got bumped. They got pushing them back till after the next Microsoft conference. So let's pause for a moment and check that out. So I think they were going to update the website. Online Dev Intersection. It's like virtual dot or something like that. Let's see it. Let's just go here. Should be a link. That's December 8 to 10, but they have a virtual one before that. Is it virtual dot? Might be. There we go. October 26th, 27th, the virtual event, yada yada yada. So I'll put that into this chat. In here, I have workshops, and one of those workshops is me, right here. We're talking about domain-driven design patterns, and then the other workshop, let's see, that's Monday. The other workshop is Tuesday. I might need to reverse the order on these. Building with clean architecture. And I guess it doesn't really matter what the order is. We can build the domain and then do the clean architecture. So in the past, I've done a 2-day workshop in person that would spend time building an application using domain-driven design and clean architecture together. It included a lecture that would talk about the principles and patterns of DDD, and it would also go into how to use clean architecture with ASP.NET Core to build the application. For this virtual thing, I've never done this before. You can see in the video that the dates are wrong. They say still September 1-2, but they got moved to October 26-27. But I'm basically splitting that workshop in two. There won't be as much hands-on because hands-on virtually is hard to do. I can't like walk around the room and see if people need help quite as easily. And some of the feedback I got from the in-person workshops was that they'd rather maximize how much brain dumping I did in the workshop and let them go and do the hands-on stuff on their own. I don't know that everybody agrees with that, honestly, but I have gotten some of that feedback. So In any case, the plan would be that I would be talking about just the domain-driven design patterns, which would be entities and aggregates and value objects and things like that on the first day, and then actually talking about building things with clean architecture on the second day and explaining how to build things with clean architecture, what goes where, and then actually going through the sample application. So I don't know if that answered your question. Are you starting an app from scratch? Yes. And going over the principles of clean architecture? Yes. What are you doing in the D2D workshop? Some of the same. They're both going to talk about the same application. At least that's how they work currently. I haven't actually finished figuring out what's going in which as far as the labs to split them, but the end goal is that the focus of the D2D patterns will be on the core and the domain model, and the focus of clean architecture will be on integrating the domain model with clean architecture to build the actual application. And hopefully I'll figure that out before October now. Alright, so quick segue on that. Simon says, I did get result working in my domain with mediator queries and commands, nicely returning values for the REST API controllers to convert to action result, and it's a very nice way to keep domain result and HTTP interpretation of that segregated. Nice. That's what it's for, so I'm glad that's working. I do want to get it to work better with Fluent Validation though, so let's keep going down that path. Let's do one more of these. Returns false given person with no forename. Not sure about forename versus first name. I stole this sample from somewhere else, so that's why. There we go. That should work as is. Let's run it. And everything's green. Okay, so this is all working as expected. Now, we would like to be able to figure out what happens when we try and add a person somewhere higher up. And we want to validate whether or not that person is correct or valid. Let's see. TBD Gamer, welcome. F1NCC. Look, my stream elements rule is working, man. People always ask, hey, are you on a treadmill? And it is. Surname was common, but last name is, yeah, exactly. Surname, I mean, to be international, surname works, I think. But it is definitely more of a non-US thing. I could turn on live unit testing, that would work. Schwammy Streams, thank you for the follow. Oh, you know what? I gotta put my Fitbit in my pocket, because when I'm working at the treadmill desk, it doesn't count these things most of the time when I'm typing, because my wrist doesn't move. There we go. Now my steps are actually counting. It's not syncing now. Hurry up and sync. That's better. That's pathetic, but alright. I've actually got more steps than this, but I didn't have the Fitbit on my pocket, so I'm only at like 1,300 steps for the day, which is horrible. But by the end of this, 1337, leet. By the end of the stream, I should be a little bit higher. Okay, so the issue at hand is when we get back a result of T from some service that's working with Fluent Validation, we want to make sure that it jives with the abstractions there. So to do that, I don't necessarily need a domain service to add a person. Right, there's nothing preventing me from just newing up a person. But just in the interest of being able to use a result for something, let's add a service for that. I've already got a weather service, showing how to use it with that. Let's just add a folder now for services. We'll throw the weather service in there. Yeah. Change its namespace to .services. And that'll probably break some stuff somewhere. everywhere. Those namespaces I don't need. General undo is crushing me with 8,700 steps so far. I had like 25,000 steps on Wednesday. It was a good day. Alright, look at all this junk. I gotta make it so that my remove does this by default. Schwabi streams, coming in late, but would you mind showing what your result class looks like? Of course I mind. How rude to ask such a thing. Alright, so this is the Ardalis.Result library, and it's a wrapper that's meant to be a thing you return from a service instead of just returning an object, a value. And its idea is that it works nicely with REST APIs or web APIs, so that your service can just return literally a result of T, and it'll get translated into an action result. So if we look at the code for it, it's pretty simple. It's a generic, and if it would load, I guess I could show it to you in Visual Studio. It just has a value, which is the type, and then it has a bunch of options for success, error, invalid, not found, forbidden, etc. And those map pretty closely to standard HTTP error codes. It also has a list of validation errors, so if it is invalid and you want to be able to pass back like a bad request and list the errors, you can easily do that. The issue we're working on is over here and here. That's not it. In here, we're trying to see, what can we do to make it so Fluent results work better with this. So I'll copy issue 16 and throw it over here. Yeah, a lot of people have a similar class, right? I've got some of these as well in various projects. The hope was to be able to create an open source project that could be useful for multiple people. And it's been a tremendous success with 0 downloads of the current version and a massive 1,300 total downloads since its first release. I don't know, some time ago. Definitely more than 3 months ago, I think. But yeah, maybe it'll catch on, right? If nothing else, I'm going to use it. So, to play with Fluent Validation, I'm just adding it to the sample and seeing how it works. I've used Fluent Validation before, I just haven't used it with Result too much. So, that's the goal here. I don't need that or that. In fact, I don't need most of this stuff. Let's close everything but my Test Explorer. Sure. What did I do in Startup? I don't know what I changed here. Careful what you wish for. Alright, so back to my service. Right? I want to create a class for person. And it's going to have a result of person, I guess. Create. What will we take for creating a person? I guess I could take in a person and try and validate it, or I could take in first name, last name, maybe? Let's do that. String first name, string last name. Or I could have a person DTO of some sort. Create person request. So there's our person service. It wants to return back a result, but we want to do a validator. So we'll say var person equal new person. Person dot forename equal first name. No, I don't want system.io. And then we want to try and validate it. Validator equal new person validator. Our result equal validator dot validate person. And then if everything's happy, I would just want to say return result dot success. That's my result. How do I do a result dot success? Okay, aggravation. Yeah, so that's my test. I don't want that. I want that. No. I want that. Return new result of whatever and pass it in. Is that the only way I use it? Alright, it's been a while since I used this thing. So if I do result of person and pass in person, is that all I need to do? I'll have to new it up, that's what I was missing. But this thing has helper methods. I thought I had a success helper method. Right, I was trying to use this one. So why didn't that pop up? Did I just need a namespace? Return result dot success. Where's my namespace? I knew that was a thing. Result of T. Result of T success. Do I have to use the of T? Result of person dot success? I guess so. Okay. So that works. But I need to do something with this. So I would have to map it somehow and say if result dot is valid, do something. So if you're not valid, we return result of person dot invalid. And now I want to pass in some errors, and this is where I'm stuck, right? I think this is what Simon was, the root of Simon's concern in the issue. So var validation errors equal result dot errors. And what is that? That's an iList of Fluent validation results to validation failure. And what does that have? Let's see. This thing wants a dictionary of string comma string. So dictionary string comma string result errors equals new one of those. I guess we can var that as well. And we just want to map from one to the other. So for each var val error in validation, validation errors. Right, and you've got warning and info messages, which I could just ignore for now and just lose that information. Or I can just treat them all the same and say if it's an error, it's an error. And list them all. Okay, so if we do this, we just do result.errors, and I can do this with a select instead of having to do it this way, but this is just to be verbose for now. Add val error dot, what's the thing I'm validating? Property name, I guess. And then val error dot error message. There's a whole lot of other stuff. Formatted message arguments, severity, attempted value, custom state. So do I want all of that? And does it make sense to not just use a string for this? Result errors.add. Oh, thank you. That's going to bite me. Alright, let's just, for now, let's just take the error message, and we don't care what it is. And we'll play around with severities in a minute. And this should not be a dot. But now this just takes in that dictionary result errors, like that, and at least things pass. Right, so what happens if it has multiple errors? Well, that's a good question. Let's find out what happens there. So now let's get back to writing some tests. So, don't need that. Person validator validate, that's, I don't want that anymore. Let's add a services tests folder. Add new folder. Service tests. Copy this into there. And we'll rename this, what is it, person service create? Person service create. No, don't rename everything. That would be bad. Service tests. Person service create. We don't need most of these. I'll just keep one. Okay, we create a service. And we say var result equals service dot create with whatever. If we give it 2 empty strings or 2 nulls, we're going to expect to get some errors. So assert dot equal result dot invalid. I need a reference to the result thing, I think. Right? Ardalis.Result. Isn't there an enum on that? Result status? Result status. I think that's what I want. Result status invalid, comma, result dot status. That'll do for now. So let's run it the first time. And it should pass. Let's give this a better name. Returns invalid result given empty names. Okay. What about those messages? Assert dot contains. Is that what I want? Let's debug this and see what the messages have. That'll be the easiest to investigate this. So we'll placement there, breakpoint there, debug. Because this is going to get to General Undo's question about what happens if we have multiple error messages. You're debugging a release build. Just make a release build using yeah, it's okay. I'll fix it next time. Maybe. I guess not. Didn't work. Alright, let's go back to debug mode. And right click, debug test. Alright, so let's investigate result. It has 0 errors, but it has validation errors. Surname must not be empty. Please specify a first name. Okay. What if I had more than one of those types of errors? What would be another error on the same field? If it wasn't empty, it might have rules about invalid characters or things like that, so we'll work up to that. For now, we could just verify it has 2 errors, so let's just do that. So assert.count, is that a thing? No. Equal to result.validation errors.count. Yeah. Max length is a good one. It could exceed the max length and have a bad character or something like that. So let's go to our person validator. And let's add a max length. Let's see. I mean, I know these are supposed to be names, but let's see, I can chain this, can't I? That's the whole point of it being Fluent. Dot not empty. Dot max length of int max length. Let's say 10, just to make it easier to test. Dot. What else can we do? Why do you have two different error collections in the result class? That's a good question. Because errors are not necessarily validation errors. There could be errors that occur that are not because it's invalid, but because there was an error that occurred in the underlying processing. Like, SQL Server wasn't available. It's not a validation error, but it is an error. Intention to save, right. Let's see. How would I do like valid characters? Or invalid characters, does not contain. Is there an easy one? Greater than doesn't work. Max, min. I can't I can't violate both min and max at the same time. Alright, let's go back here. Must be a regex or something I can do. Not equal to foo. That'll work. What if we also say it's not equal to some number that's long, some value that's long? Dot not equal some long name. Alright, so if I give it some long name, it's going to be greater than 10 and not equal to that. Do you mind if I ask why you don't use shouldly or Fluent assertion? Because I just haven't added it yet. I think I do want to use it. I mentioned that earlier, Jay. But thank you for asking. I should probably just do that now and bite the bullet. So, let's see. Let's do that. Let's come back over here. Let's go ahead and refactor to use. Which one do I like better, Fluent assertions or shouldly? I can't even remember. What do you propose, Jay? It's up to you. Shouldly or Fluent? Or do we see which one has... Oh, another fan of the specification library. Thank you. See which one has more downloads? Simon likes Fluent. Well, we're doing Fluent validation, so it's kind of like we'd be on brand if we stick with that. Fluent assertions. Shouldly. Oh, now there's a fight. Looked this up the other day. What did you look up the other day? Which one has more? Shouldly is more popular, he says. Alright, let's go over here. $8.8 million people can't be wrong. But 58 million people can be even less wrong. Fluent times a gazillion. They're pretty much the same. Let's keep a rich gets richer thing going here and go with Fluent assertions, I guess. Shwami wants to see shouldly. They're almost the same. Really, there's not a whole lot of difference. You guys, I need a vote mechanism for my chat. I'm going to derail my whole stream trying to figure out which one of these to use. I'm going to say we're going to go with Fluent assertions because it's more popular. And I want to be trendy. So we'll install that. Right. Yeah, that's deprecated. I don't care. Okay, so now we can go back to our tests here. And we could say something like result.status.should be, stop trying to help me, get out of the way, result status.invalid. And then result.validationerrors.count dot should equal should be 2. There's probably a better way to do that, but there we go. Happy now? It's a sample, so use the most popular. Okay. Let's make sure that still runs. Alright. Now let's figure out what happens to multiple errors. So on our first name, person validator validate, which let's add our test here first. Returns false given person with what was that name I gave it? Some long name for surname. So this becomes some long name. Assert true result. Let's see. This should be result dot is valid dot should be false, and result dot errors dot count dot should be 2. We think. This is going to be a problem. Just get rid of it for now. And let's run this test. Oh, there's a have count. Alright, thank you. Should have count. Let's look for that. Errors dot should have count. Is that a thing? Should dot have count. There we go. Alright. And let's run it. Boom. Why are you red? Error to contain 2 items, but found 3. Oh, right. We also didn't give it a for name. For name equals something valid. How about that? Perfect. Okay, so we can verify that we do, if we give it some long name, we do get 2 errors. So now we come back here. We try this again. Returns invalid result given some long name surname. Returns invalid result with 2 errors given that. Alright, so there's our service, there's our first name, last name, some long name. Expecting that count to be 2. This one I think is going to fail. And it failed. And it says, item with the same key has already been added, which is what we expect in person service. Right here. Person validator should return false given person with no forename. So is that the name I should use? Then you can name the test exactly. Yeah, Jay, I used to do that. You're talking right to the kind of thing I care about. This is like a really old post of mine. No, it's a good suggestion. I've suggested it many times. In fact, you'll see it in these screenshots here on this link. So, you know, such and such thing should return this, right? But if you come down to the bottom of this, later on I changed in much later, I guess 2016. No, sorry, 2019. Other folks suggested to me that it was just too verbose to say should at the end of everything, and then, you know, say should return when you could just say, you know, returns and just make it a declarative. Right? So the difference between calculator add should return a sum given 2 integers and calculator add returns sum given 2 integers. Same intent, but this one's more a declaration of what it does. as opposed to this being kind of like what it ought to do. And this one's shorter and a little bit clearer sometimes. And also it doesn't result in every single thing ending with the same string, which is a little bit verbose. So I switched over to the preference for the declarative style, but I definitely use this structure, right, where every test class is a method. It's a class name, method name, and then describe the thing it should do here. To want to work around this by prefix each key with an index as I loop the validation result errors. Yeah, consistency is definitely key. And I wouldn't say either one of these is wrong, right? They're both much better than just saying customer tests or something like that, right? So I still have a lot of old code out there that uses this convention because I only really started to switch last year. But I do prefer this one now, and that's what I tend to do these days. Alright, back in here, add the property name. What do we do if it's already there? Well, if it exists, we could add another key to it. So if not result errors dot exists dot keys dot right there contains key val error dot property name, then we'll just add it. That was horrible. Don't do that. Just add it. Now how do I do this in a way that is future proof? Right, I can do it once, but I need a counter that I'm going to increment, right? So I prefix each key with an index as I loop through. I guess I could just do the error number. That would work. Let's just do that. Int error number equals 1. And if I do that, then I don't need to do the if check, because I'll know it'll always be unique. String key equals that, and we'll just pass in the key. How's that? That should work. I don't have anything that's looking for that key in my test right now, so it should be good. Shwami Streams is a subscriber. Thanks, man. Person service create. Let's see if we get this to pass now. So run the test already. Failed. Count to be 2, but found 3 because I needed this to be a good name. Now you're good. Yay. Alright. And just to check out what that looks like, we can come in here and debug. E Fleming 969, thanks for the follow. Hi Eric. Alright, so validation errors. Surname :1, surname :2. That works. Alright. So continue. So where does that leave us? Most of that work is happening inside of that service, which is here, this person service. And this whole chunk of code is going to be really repetitive between any service like this that I write, just to convert the thing into a result of T. So it's almost like I need a result of T that takes in the Fluent validation type And either result of t then has to take a dependency on the Fluent validation type, which obviously I don't want, or I have another package that is result.fluentvalidation that you could optionally install, and if you install it, it will give you an extra invalid extension method that would do that. So let's write that extension method and see what that would look like. So public class Fluent validation result extensions, and it needs to be static, and it should have a static extension that should look a lot like what I have here for invalid. Right here. It's going to return a result of t, but it's going to take it from whatever this is, an I list of validation failure. Fluent validation errors or failures. Why don't you validation? Okay, yeah, we need that. All right, create a new result of t, this and that. Okay, so now in here, I basically need this code to happen in here. Take my dictionary, create this failure type here. We'll call this val failure. Not sure what to do about that T there. Alright, for each val failure, we'll go through result errors, and then validation errors equals result errors. Dictionary, string, the proper index result T cannot be used because its setter is invalid. Oh, that's because this was inside the thing. Don't forget the this argument. How did I get... Oh, they weren't extension methods before. That's what's different. I was thinking this was an extension method, but it's not. It's just a static constructor. Alright, so how do I extend this? How do I extend this to support something? Big fan of Jimmy Bogard, the deity. I like to do a lot of integration testing now. I agree. I like both. If I need integration tests, I'll write an integration test. If I can do the same thing in a unit test, though, I'll just do a unit test. Yep, vertical slices are my jam as well. I work with Jimmy at the moment. That's not really helpful. Alright, so result of t, standard public class. I've got all these little static factories on it to create these things, and they can access these private properties because they're in it. Now I want to extend this in a separate package, ideally with an extension method. If all I do is convert the errors, then I can pass that, which is what general undo is suggesting. I don't like that as well. I'd really like for you to just be able to do a result at invalid, but I don't think I can do that now. Unless I convert all of these to extension methods, which would be an option. If these were all extension methods, then I could extend it better. But let's do your solution as a stopgap. So instead of being an extension method at all, we just want to return back from this to that. So dictionary, do I have that dictionary somewhere? That. I need one of those. So we'll return that from here. Convert error messages. That's a horrible name, but we'll start with that. and we'll return the errors. Alright, so if we have that, Fluent Validation Result, not really extensions at that point. Fluent Validation Helpers, Type Converter. Will a type converter help? I don't know. I need more information. Simon, what would a type converter do for me? Extension methods only work on an instance. That's true. I don't think we want this to be extensions. Fluent Validation Mapper. Fluent Validation Result Mapper. That's kind of what it is. Map to, what are those things called? Dictionary. Alright. Sometimes it helps to keep the class clean, separation of concerns. Try to advise devs to not use extension methods when you own the class itself. What do you think of that advice? That's true for applications. I don't use extension methods hardly ever in my own applications because I own the class. If you're trying to build a framework or a library that's going to be reused, then you may want to have extension methods as a way for others to extend it. For instance, that's how ASP.NET Core implements loggers. That's why all the logger methods are extension methods, because they're all extension methods on iLogger. So anyone can build an iLogger, and they get all the extension methods with it. Whereas if they'd put all those, log methods on some base logger class, you'd have to implement all of them. And the ability to create a logger would be a lot more work. Alright, so basically here, and yeah, Jay, I'm not sure I like the mapper name, but result mapper dot map to dictionary of validator, no, of result dot errors, right? And then one more paren, and we've got something that works. And then all this goes away. That gets a little better. Converter. Yeah, I really don't like this name at all. And it shouldn't obviously live inside of or even next to this class. I don't like converter any better though. Row. Person validator validate. Returns true given a valid person. What do we screw up there? Are these too long? Yeah, it's too long. Alright. Is it actually mapping? Well, yeah, is that a good question? I mean, it's mapping from this type of thing, from a list of validation failure, to a dictionary or string count of string. That's mapping, isn't it? Validate.asErrors would just be .validate.asErrors. So here to here, do an extension method on, I think I missed one of your things. Ah, there you are. The thing would better be an extension method on the Fluent Validation type in its namespace. Yeah, I like that. So then it becomes Fluent Validation Result extensions, which is what I had. And then this becomes as errors, I guess. That's fine. And then this namespace could be separate. So we could go put this here, and we could give it a public namespace of FluentValidation.results. steal their namespace, even though it's in my project. Alright, so if we have that, not public, thanks for the following large SE, the biggest SE there is. Then we're going to say return this result.errors.as, and it's more fluent that way, .as errors. That's not quite right. Result. Then you just discover the extension. Alright, I like that. I like as errors. Nice, nice, nice. Okay, everybody likes that. Something.validate. Okay, so I don't even need the result, but I do need the result. I see what you're saying. Validate.as errors on the Fluent validation type. Why not return result of t from the list directly? So you would take this whole if thing out of this, and this thing, instead of returning a dictionary, would return a result of t, right? Then it's just result.add again. Okay. How do I get the t? I guess the t would be off of that. Maybe. And just result.as errors. Return result of t. Validation failure. But this doesn't have any type information on it. So we're saying validate as errors. So what we want to, what you guys want is return validator.validate.as errors. I don't think that's what will work though. Alternately, we say return validator.validate.as result, and then have that actually be the result. Like this one, if it has errors, I still have to do an if check here to do this kind of thing. This one, I could say, hey, if it's valid, just return t. Otherwise, return, or rather, return result success. Otherwise, do the other thing. Seems you can't use bracket. Return result of t, right? That's what this is doing. That's what this is doing. Alright, that's just extend the result so it's result.as errors. Right, so you're saying return the validation result? You might want to do other stuff like logging, no problem. You're saying you should have the if check. Right, so you say get rid of this, keep the if check. You're saying just do that. Get rid of that. So we're going to validate the thing. Yep, alright. If we're not valid, we're going to do this. We're going to say result.as errors. Result is a validation result. Invalid result.as errors of person. Do I need that? Because I think I need a t here. As errors of t. Right? Validation result second as errors. Well, it does. It's right down there. No extension method can be found. Well, I have to pass in this. This result of t. Result. How about that? Return. Can't use angle brackets in chat. Yeah, sorry. Thanks for the follow-up, 8213. I list validation failures. No argument. I gotta pass the argument. I don't want to pass the argument, because if I just pass in, this is the wrong result. I got two different results here. Right, that result is a validation result. So this needs to be validation result. We'll call that val result to be clear. Pass in the thing. This still doesn't work. You think as error needs to return a dictionary. Don't need second argument, just extend validation result. Right, because I already got it on there. So in here, none of my return needs to be the dictionary, which is what Shady's telling me. Dictionary, string, comma, string. I'll get there eventually. Alright, so there's my dictionary. This just becomes, copy this dot errors, and we're pretty close, right? I think we can build now. Takes a village. Thank you. Alright. So do we like what this looks like now? Sorry, you kept saying extend the result, and I was thinking of the wrong result, and it's because we're overloading that term here. Alright, so in this case now we've got a validator we're going to create, validate the person, check the result, either return invalid or success, and this works. This thing we could package up in a separate nuget package if we wanted to, just for Fluent validation integration. It doesn't support yet things like different levels of validation, like warning or info or whatever, but it does at least capture all of them correctly, which the current thing doesn't. That doesn't have to be generic anymore now. Good catch. Thank you. There we go. And then our test should all work. Cool. Alright, so Simon, is this enough? Right? Is this useful? What else do we need? Would you be amenable to having 2 additional collections on Ardalis.Result for warnings and info? I don't see why not. I mean, I don't think most people will use them, but if you want them, they'd be there. And then this thing could just convert all of them. Now, what would you do if you only had info, right? Val result.errors. Like here's a val failure. Dot. What's error code? Is that an int? String. Severity. And what is the severity? Severity is severity. Alright, so we could say if this equals severity dot error info or warning. Okay. So you really like having info and warning and error in there. And you're saying this type of thing would be very helpful, this even without that. But if we had that, then we could map each one. Or we do what they're doing and we just have a thing, so instead of returning back a string, we return back a type of our own. I mean, at that point we're just starting to reinvent Fluent Validation's object model, but I'm not totally opposed to that. I don't really like using primitives. So if we have a better thing than a primitive to use on result, when we have a validation error, this key being the property name, probably, and the string being the actual problem, we could certainly add a severity to that. Right, use a list of validation area, basically reinvent what Fluent Validation already has. I agree. Right, okay, so would we want to do that independently from Fluent Validation, or at that point is it worth maybe just saying that this result type depends on Fluent validation, and we could just take that as a dependency and then just use their types. I think for now it makes sense to reinvent their stuff, but we, coincidentally we'll use something that's very close. But if it continues to be a thing where we're just constantly mapping their types to ours, we might just take that dependency. So at that point, we just need a new class in here, validation error, and validation error is going to have, sure, there are other validation libraries, I agree. Gee, what does a validation error need to have on it that would look somewhat like this? Well, it could have an error message, it could have a property name, it could have a severity. Would I put the property name in there in addition to having it be a key? Do I need it to be a dictionary? If I go this route, I could just have it be a list instead of a dictionary. That's probably better. And then I wouldn't have to worry about key collisions. So what if we make it a list of validation errors? Each validation error has property name and error message and severity. Let's do that. I'm going to break a lot of stuff. So we have a public string property name, and we'll have a public string error message, and we'll have a public severity, we'll call it validation severity, and then we'll create a public enum severity, and this will have values that look a lot like severity equals severity dot error warning info. Error is 0, info is 2, warning is 1. So error warning info. I want the numbers to match up. Info or information? Info. Alright. Okay, so that works. And then this dictionary of validation errors becomes a list of validation error. Equals new list of validation error. And that's going to break a whole lot of stuff. There's that. Can a partial class span a package boundary? No, it cannot. I've tried that before, it does not work. Alright, we don't need this. We're not going to need a key anymore. We're really just going to be able to map these things much easier. In fact, we could probably just do it with a single link statement. Result errors. Don't need a dictionary anymore. We'll make it a list of validation result. Shoot, is that what I called it? Validation error. There we go. Is that my type? Yes. We don't need that. For each failure in there, add new. Instead of property name, call it identifier. That's probably a good idea. New validation error. And yeah, I wasn't sure about property name, because what if it's not a property? What if it's the whole class or something? Are you walking? I should put that into my thing that asks because I have a thing that if you type this word in, and it pops up and says that, I need to add walking to that. But yes, because, you know, I have to get up to my steps. Look, I'm up to 6,100. Which is still awful, but my Fitbit was on my wrist, and it wasn't counting all my steps earlier on, because when I'm typing it doesn't count the steps. It can't tell that I'm walking. Alright, so what do we got? We got error message, we got severity. Shoot, I need a way to map severities. Fortunately, I made the numbers the same. Yeah. Well, I was thinking about that, Angry Bird. The other thing I was thinking is if you do, I'm not super familiar with all the Twitch things, right? But there's the little tokens or whatever that you can give people on Twitch. And I was thinking, like, if you give so many tokens, then for 5 or 10 minutes or whatever, I'll boost up the speed on the treadmill by like half a mile per hour, and then multiple people could like throw all their tokens in at the same time. The bits, they're called, I guess. So a bunch of people throw in bits at the same time. The treadmill could be at some speed, and I could have a camera or something pointing at the speed so you could see that. Or theoretically, this treadmill has Bluetooth, so you know I could specify that you could actually control it through Twitch. Well, it only goes up to 4 miles per hour, right? So like right now I'm at 1.3, so this is 1.5 right now. I just bumped it up to. But there'd have to be a way in the stream, like, right here, maybe, it would say, like, what the speed was, and then it'd be, like, a little thing that says, hey, throw some bits to crank up the speed, and then I'd be sitting here, like, trying to write code while everybody's watching, and you get more entertainment value out of it, right? And I get exercise, so. Steve the Roadrunner, yeah. Simon, there was a streamer the other night playing Fall Guys. Every time he lost, he did 10 press-ups. He had done more than 200. What's Fall Guys? Is that a game? Your treadmill is hacked. Yeah. Okay, so I guess while we're here, we could just do another thing that does public static validation severity from severity did I not put that into class? I guess not. Bump this up to there. Severity equals from severity val failure dot severity, like that. No. Can't type. Okay, error message equals error message val failure dot error message. Property name, which we're going to change, equals val failure dot property name. You said identifier. Okay, yeah, it's a game show. Cool. Let's call that identifier like that. So instead of property name, we'll call this identifier. Call it thing what broke. Get my enum somewhere. Okay. Find me all the broken stuff. Alright, so this needs to be a switch or something. So, I hate using switch statements. Switch on severity case severity dot error, no colon there. Do I have to return? Validation severity dot error. Yeah, the new switch syntax, exactly. Like, I know there's a better way to do this, but I don't know it off the top of my head. So, error, warning, return warning, info, return info. I don't want to just blindly take the numbers, because if Fluent Validation decides to change their enum sequence and the numbers change, then this will break. So, yeah, I generally use if-else. Case default, throw new argument, out of range exception, unexpected severity. Specifies the severity of the rule. What? It is called case default, isn't it? Default literal default is not valid as a pattern. Oh, it's not case, it's just default. That's right. Alright. Been doing C# for a while, still can't remember that because I never use it. Use a discard. What do I use a discard for there? Alright, this got renamed to identifier. Alright. So then we got those. This dictionary is no longer a dictionary. It's now a list of validation error. And networks. Thank you for the follow, George89. Alright, that's not a dictionary. So I guess I just have to pass in a list of validation error. There. And then this needs to be a new validation error. And identifier equals postal code. And error message equals that. And I should have a default severity of error. So if I don't specify it, it just is. So we'll just do this. There's definitely an automatic refactoring in ReSharper. I know I've used that before. I'm not sure if Visual Studio's got one. Where did I end up putting that thing anyway? That was in person service. So I haven't pulled that out yet. So here, if I control dot on this, it'll add a space. But that's about all it wants to do at the moment. So I don't have like a Roslyn code fix for this that I see. Thanks for the follow, Mikukyam. Alright, so what's wrong with this? I must have killed my interface. So do I need that interface? I'm not sure I'm using an interface for anything. But let's make it that. Now we should get to the point where all the tests fail. This is definitely going to be a breaking change for the library. If I get some Fitbit integration with this thing, you could also do like, bang steps or something in the chat. And like see how many steps that someone had walked. I mean, that should totally be a Twitch library that we could work on. Alright. Where's my error list? There we go. So now we're into the tests, and what test is this? Initialize the status to invalid, sets error messages. So this just needs to be a list of validation error. And then this just needs to be a new validation error. Identifier equals name. Error message equals name is required, comma, new validation error. Really? Identifier equals postal code. And then that. And that looks close to right. Assert equal dot validation errors dot first thanks for the follow, Anderson9991. Okay, I can put in a where expression here, but not a select. I really want to select here, or I just want to say dot message. There we go. I could add shouldly to this. It's a different library. We could have shouldly in one and Fluent Validation in the other, but I'm not going to do that. But I will add Fluent Validation to it while we're here. Browse. Fluent Validation. So, Fluent assertions. Sorry, that's what I want. Because now I can say result.status.should.be result status dot, I can't see, invalid. And then result.validationerrors.contains should contain I don't care if it's the exact element as long as the names are the same, right? So if I say it should contain and then I new up a validation error, it's not going to be the same as this validation error. Contains a specific item. What about contains value? Is there a thing for that? Contains by value? Contains equivalent of. That sounds like what I want. New validation error. Error message. Expected message. Identifier. Name. How about that? And then same thing for the other one. Postal code. That goes here. And that goes there. And now it's all Fluenty. No way everything worked. Really? That was the only other place I had a test for that? That's amazing. Alright, well let's see what happens when we build, or when we run the test. Ruh-roh. Alright, so here we're no longer mapping them to bad results the way we're supposed to. And that's probably because I'm using the actual NuGet package, I think. No. Am I using the project? I'm using the project. Just give it an expression. Give what an expression? I think I'm past wherever you were talking about. Alright. Outcomes. Both failed. Alright. Bad request, but was internal server error. That's not good. These are all the same. This one's different. That's good. Internal server error. So why are you blowing up? I guess we'll debug into it. Sample web and create the error. Oh, inside of the weather service here, where you did contains equivalent of has an error that takes an expression to identify the item that should be contained. Okay. So instead of having to new it up, you're saying. Alright, I think my error is in here. So let's put a breakpoint there. Let's go debug this. Why am I on release? I'm not in release. Everything is debug. What are you talking about? Right, okay, fewer constructors. Ardalis.Result, right. So, but I'm not using the nuget package, am I? Or am I? That's where I needed to check for the package. Right, okay. Thank you. So, I can't fix that until I update the package, is what we're saying. Because I need to change how that does it. And that is a different solution, right? So here's doing that. There's this one. Let's go to CS Proj. Ardalis.Result, ASP.NET Core. Oh, there it is. Sorry, I missed it. Thank you. Translate. Okay. Key and value. That does not work. That's what we're saying is the problem here. Each var error. Now this thing depends on a different version of result. So I've got a publish result. Yeah, this is the whole publish dance that we've got to go through. Okay. Well, it is 2 o'clock. I don't have a whole lot of time left. Let's try and get just a publish of result done, or at least a pull request made, and go from there. So the sample looks good. The test won't pass until I can get this working, but let's go in here. Let's make sure Ardalis.Result. This could now be a 2.0 release when I get around to it. .0 release notes. And this is the final bit of the issue. Marshalling that result into an action result. Yes. Show me streams. You'll try stopping again. Yeah, I'm usually Fridays, 12 to 2. Let me wrap up here a little bit, get a pull request going, and we'll see if we can raid somebody else. I got a little bit of a late start today, so if I get a little bit over here, another 15 minutes or so, that's probably fine. Alright, so what do we do here? We updated sample to use, well, the package doesn't care about the sample. Really all we did was refactored validation errors from strings to actual type. That's probably good enough. Save that. All of its tests are passing, I think. Right. Ardalis.Result tests. Yeah, they were all good. Validation severity looks fine. Validation error looks fine. Result looks fine. Good luck with that, as I have no idea how to handle the limitations of rest to reflect the error type. See you, Shwami Streams. Think need to make it version more than 2.0. It does already exist. Why don't I have... I think you're right, but why don't I have the latest version? I thought I did. Maybe I didn't do a proper fetch or pull. I think you're right. I probably need to merge master into my branch. Yeah, 201's already out there. Exactly. So I need to get to 3.0. So let's pull this. Somehow I didn't start on the latest, which is my fault. Alright, let's look at branches. No, let's look at the history, I guess. Alright, so master, this is all from like 5.15. Out here though, we've got all this 820 stuff, and we're on version 2.11. So I want to get us to 3.0, but I want to merge this in. So I want to definitely pull, and you're probably just silently failing, because Visual Studio sucks. Every time I tell it to pull, this is what happens. It says, oh, this pull would overwrite your stuff, so I'm just going to silently fail and not do it. No, I'm going to have merge conflict badness, for sure. Okay, so this is the thing that really ticks me off about Git integration in Visual Studio that they need to fix. Because I'm sure I did a pull on this, and it did not tell me in any visible way that there was a problem. But here, lo and behold, there was a problem. So an hour and a half ago, when I said get latest, it didn't. And now I've got a bunch of stuff I gotta clean up. Just is really annoying. So that's why you don't use Visual Studio for Git. Crap. So now I've got to... I gotta resolve getting remote master to local master. I've got to merge local master into my Fluent validation sample. Or I just say screw it and just make a pull request. And fix it there. Yeah, General Undo, I'm with you. There's a plugin embedded PowerShell terminal. Well, that doesn't really help me unless it pops up and lets me know when there's a problem. Or are you saying I would just do the shell inside Visual Studio? I'd be fine with that. I'm just going to pull request this thing. And I'll clean up the stuff in the pull request, I think. But knowing that master now, let's go here. Let's go back out to result. To 0.1. Because Shady Niggy and I were just working on this like yesterday, right? Yeah, so 2.0.1 is what we're at. There's all validation error. Okay. So I'm going to rev this to 3.0 and see what happens. So in here, this just becomes 3.0. Git bash has good tab completion, yes. Live unit testing, .NET Watch test, that's true, yeah. Or I could just use VS Code if I'm going to bother doing all my work in the terminal. I don't need Visual Studio at that point. Okay, so let's push this out there. Get our changes. This looks fine. This is update sample for Fluent validation. Refactor result to use validation errors. Good enough. Branch master. No, I'm not on master. I was on my branch. Fluent val sample. There. Okay, that's better. Commit. sync, push that out there. Yeah, really all I want is for when I tell Visual Studio to do a pull, that it actually does it, and if it fails, that it lets me know. Because this silently failing bullshit is getting old. Alright, we'll go out to pull request, we'll create our pull request, and we'll see how awful this is going to be. We'll create it. And use the command line. I want to use this button. Let me use the button. Do I have to wait for the build? Why are you gray? If it's disactivated, your pull is too complex to resolve. Oh, great. Wonderful. Yeah, it's really annoying. Alright, let's see how we can do with VS Code. VS Code is even nicer for Git than Visual Studio is, which is really sad that the free tool is so much better. Yeah, I could see Visual Studio being the problem with GitHub, but I don't think that's really true. No, go away. Go away. Let's go here. Let's go here. Git Graph is a really nice plugin. It's way prettier than the Visual Studio one. Alright, so Fluent Val sample. Origin is up here. I want to merge this into mine. So merge that into current branch. Go ahead and create a commit. That's fine. Conflict all the things. That's fine. Let's figure this out. So in here, do I want core services or do I want the other thing? I want both. So accept. How do I do accept both? There it is. Accept both. Boom. I don't know why you're red, but we're going to say you're done. Weather service. Head says new validation error. Out there has a dictionary. I want to accept current. So accept current change. Save. Result. Accept current change. Oh, that's right, because we added that string array thing, and that was short-lived. Result. Accept current change. Unit tests for result constructor. Here. Accept current change. Basically, I just want to use my thing every time. I think that's all. The C's are the conflicts, right? Stage changes. Merge changes. Oh wait, now I get more. Alright, so this one I missed. Add Fluent Validation to the sample. And the sample wants that. Well, I definitely want that. Let's do this manually. I want to keep Fluent Validation. I want to keep the newer of the annotations, and I want to keep Ardalis.Result. So we'll do that. Alright. This one we took care of. This one, release notes, we want the 3.0, so we want the current change. Yep. This one we did, this one we did. No, we didn't. Current change. And this one. Different project. This is the unit test. Added Fluent assertions. and a package reference to Ardalis.Result. Why would we want a package reference for unit tests? Unit tests should use a project reference. That's weird. That should probably be a project reference, I think. But we'll leave it for now and see what happens. Here, we want the current change, and I think that's everything, right? No conflicts here. Alright, let's say that's good. You have unmerged files. I do not. Where? Where do you think I have unmerged files? I didn't save them all, that's why. Save. Alright, how about now? Commit. Which one? Still not going to tell me. Unresolved conflict, unmerged files. Not going to say which one. What do I have to do? Stage them? Accept all? Stage them. Is that all I need to do? Alright, fine. Now you're committed. What branch am I on? Alright, push. Pull push. Sync. Let's see if that worked. Conflict is gone. So let's go back to Visual Studio and see if our tests pass. Go back here. Because those unit tests, I really think this should be an actual project reference. How does the build succeed? Alright, then now we get the errors that I was expecting earlier. Or do we? Where's my error list? It's back in core. Why am I just now getting errors in core when it was building fine before? And now it's gone. Huh. See ya, General Undo. Have a nice weekend. Alright, my extra 15 minutes are up. Get value for result example. Can I convert T to Ardalis.Result of T? For this one. T of test value goes to there. Why would that have ever worked? Did the result have an operator on it? Like, got broke somehow? Oh, there it is. So why is that broken? That should work. Result implicit operator. I shouldn't need that. Must be some other bug. Alright, this guy shouldn't know about this problem yet because he shouldn't have a project reference. He should be looking at Ardalis.Result. So how do you know that this is a thing? So that's a string, and it's trying to loop over the string. This must be an issue with how I merged. So for every error in validation errors, oh, it's because it's not an array of strings anymore. Alright, fine. I'm going to get rid of this. It's going to be a regression for a moment. Need to remove the value. It's because it's not an array of strings anymore. That's the problem. Refill. No way to resolve conflict. What? Sample web is also using a project reference, maybe? Yeah, which we don't want. No, that's okay. Ardalis.Result. Alright, so you need the thing I just got rid of. Which should get rid of those. And get rid of that. Alright. Still 3 failures. Error, error, error. Why do the errors not show up here, but they show up in the output? Visual Studio, you're drunk. There we go. Type or namespace validation error cannot be found in sample core. Sample core should have, close all that down. There's sample core, and the problem is I had sample core with a project reference when web was not. Alright, package reference. That got changed. So this needs to be a project reference. There's no way to do that easily in VS Code. Alright, basically I need to publish Ardalis.Result out to nuget. And once I do, then I'll be able to update this sample. And that's going to take more than a couple minutes. So let's just finish this up right now. Find somebody that we can pop over to on live coders. There to there. What we got? I guess we'll just go pop over and see what Clarkio's doing. Major upgrade Twitch highlighter. Alright, so I'm going to pop in there. Pull up my stream manager. And we'll say raid channel. Clarkio. Start the raid. Everybody have a good weekend. I will talk to you later. Look for an update to Ardalis.Result in the next hour or so on nuget. Thanks.